Pisces 2, a squirrel hiding from hunters. The question of fear is addressed in this one. The squirrel cannot indulge its fear overmuch because it needs the nuts. And yet, without an appropriate amount of fear, it's just going to go crazy and go for the nuts when there are hunters in the region. And we have to learn that we can't do that. In life, we just cannot behave in a silly, fearless way, nor can we be overly timid. Neither of those strategies will take us anywhere. So we have to work out what to do with our fear. And the Sufi teaching on this topic is quite enlightening. That all of these negative qualities we have, not only fear, but pride and anger and all the negative stuff, actually is not wrong. It's a form of energy. It's not wrong, it's just expressed in a distorted way. So, in this particular case, with light, we can turn our fear into caution. And the light that we're talking about is the light of intelligence, the light of reasonable mindedness, where our instinctual grasping habits might go for the nuts come what may because we want those nuts. That's not an appropriate instinctual behavior. That'll get us killed if there are hunters around. So how do we actually learn to work out whether our fears are legitimate? And how do we bring them into the realm of spiritual beingness by bringing the light of consciousness to them, to turn them into something wholesome and good? This is the question. And we have the answer in the sense of not allowing our fears to be vague and non-specific. We have to bring ourselves to the point of balance between reasonableness and courage. The unspecific fear, like I always don't do that, and I'm anxious about what might happen in the future, and very definitely fearful behaviors, but not related to a particular event or a particular type of behavior. It's just unspecific. Now that fear is neurotic, and that has to be dealt with if you're to go forward on a spiritual level. You can't take your neuroses with you very far on your spiritual path. That's the baggage that stops you from being able to walk very fast and very far. The caution that we bring to situations is an aspect of wisdom. And we move towards wisdom away from neurotic fear by exercising good judgment. The spiritual path is not all about love and compassion and being nice to people. It's also about surviving and setting boundaries in place and having good judgment about who to exclude from your life and what behaviors to exclude from your life. We can't just say yes to everything. It feels like that's a spiritual height. And that's not untrue, but it's not always true. A part of our spirituality is to say, whoa, I'm not doing that. That's foolish. There is no sense in which foolishness is a spiritual principle. Silly people don't get very far on the road to enlightenment. You can't be silly. And a squirrel going for nuts when there are hunters about, this is an indication of silliness. And a squirrel does not do that. Animals have worked out that caution must always be present in all that we do. And that's a lesson hard learned sometimes. So the equation that we're trying to balance is the equation between cost and benefit. Now, the cost of the situation is very often the risk that we take, and the benefit is usually what we want or what we need. So, in any situation, weigh up the potential risk against the potential benefit. And if the risk is high and the benefit is not, you don't do it. It's just gambling, and gamblers lose. But if the gain is important to you, and it's worth some risk, then you have to feel yourself into that. Just imagine how much the gain is worth. Is it really important, or could you do without it? Just imagine how much the risk is. Is there a good chance that you're going to be able to deal with this? Are you capable, competent, confident, skillful? Can you minimize the risk by bringing all of those qualities to it? Or is just this recklessness? Because recklessness is a form of silliness. It's an emotional indulgence. When we're doing anything, especially new things with new people, we're in harm's way. The only sense that people have of danger sometimes is from nature, but it's just not true. Our fellow man, as it were, is a source of greater danger to us nowadays than nature. We've pretty much overcome nature in most everyday senses. You know, we're not in danger of hunger in the West. We're not really in danger of attack very much. To some extent we are, but usually not from nature. You know, we don't get attacked by lions and tigers. But we do get attacked by muggers a bit more frequently. So the caution that we're talking about is with other people as well as with nature. And certain places are much more dangerous than other places. Cities, inner cities particularly, poor places and so on, they're full of risk. And it is true that a truly realized being can walk into harm's way impervious to danger. This is true. However, unless we're at that level, that's a silly thing to try. Just because you think you ought to be realized and capable of doing it, it doesn't mean that you are. You might be making a mistake about that. And I have seen some people who have an overblown sense of their own spiritual worth, and they do this. They walk into harm's way, and they pay the price. We have to be cautious. Now, the feedback we get as to whether or not we have learned good judgment, appropriate caution, brought the light of intelligence and the light of consciousness to our fear. The proof of this lies in two qualities: survival and abundance. If we're surviving and actually life is good, we have what we need, we have what we want, then yeah, your judgment's probably good. But in the absence of those two elements of feedback, then really have a look. Just check again. Maybe your judgment is not so good. Because if you're just about surviving but not really very well, and you certainly don't feel abundance every day in your life, then there's a good chance that your judgment is wrong. If you blame somebody else, a president or an economic collapse or life itself, for your hardship, then you've missed the point entirely. Everything that comes to you is you. And if you're not getting anything to prove that you're making the right judgment call, then there's a very good chance that you're making the wrong judgment call. And squirrel-like, you'll enter the hunter's field of vision. So be cautious. Develop your judgment better.